Hello, my name is Barbara Newman, and I am the Church Services Director from All Belong Center for Inclusive Education. I am also a partner affiliate with the Calvin Institute of Christian Worship. I'd like to talk just for a couple of minutes about something called universal design for worship. But let's talk about that word universal design. Technically, universal design is a way of designing buildings, products, and environments that make them accessible to all people with and without disabilities. So imagine that building. The term first started with architects. They build a building for everyone to use, but know and expect that people of all abilities will be coming into that building. So they put options in that building. There are stairs and there are elevators. There are curb cutouts, there are parking spots that might be closer to a door and some that are further away. They build options for those that can feel the braille on the wall describing the women's and men's bathrooms, as well as people who can wheel in and use bars within those stalls that help a wheelchair user. So I think it's really important to remember that it's about options. Educators loved this idea, and they soon began to talk about universal design for learning. We know that our classrooms are filled with learners of varied abilities. So let's not just talk about this in one way. We can talk about it, but let's show it, let's touch it, and let's allow children to not only write a report or speak a report, but also maybe they could choose to build a visual display. It's all about building in options. Well, if we in our worship services want to make them accessible to people of all abilities, if we want to build an accessible conversation with God in worship, it's about building in those options. It's about perhaps saying, look, we want everyone to be part of this a time when we tell God, I love you during song. And so there may be those who would say it with words and others who may need to have those words sent ahead of time so that they are part of a screenshot on a device that they may have in their possession. It could be that we would provide streamers for people who could wave their love to God as opposed to speak it or sing it. What about that order of worship? Again, do we want people to have those words? Then maybe we build in some options. The same way we build in options around an offering. Do we want people to have access to give? Well, then we do it in a variety of ways. You could put money in the bucket that's being passed down the pew, or you could text it in. You could put it in during the week. You could have budget envelopes. There are so many different ways to give. How can we apply that and continue to apply that to the rest of that worship service? Universal design for worship is about thinking through those options that allow people to have access points. Take the Lord's Supper, for example. By providing a gluten-free option, you have just opened up that opportunity to connect through the Lord's Supper with more people. What if we would say, look, you could come forward for communion, or you could stay seated and someone will bring the elements to you. Again, every option increases the possibility that people can participate. Hearing loops, the way we speak and invite people into worship. We could say, please stand, or we could say, please stand, or please rise in body or in spirit. All of those are ways to increase options. And if you're the pastor and you're the one giving the message that day, well, perhaps what we want to do is plant in a few visuals, plant in some interaction so that, again, you have invited even more people into that time. An order of worship with just words, oh, that would reach some. But if we also put in some icons or pictures into our order of worship and made it available ahead of time for people to download onto their devices as needed or print it off on their Braille printer, you have just increased participation. Universal design for worship is just a wonderful way of thinking about diverse ways that we can connect and allow everybody present to connect with God.